I'm 85 years old, and for most of my life, I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. I had everything I was supposed to have: the job, the house, the family. I checked every box society told me to check. But every night, when I laid my head on the pillow, there was this hollow feeling in my chest. Like something was missing. Like I was waiting for my real life to start. And the crazy thing is, I couldn't even name it. I just knew that whatever I was doing, wherever I was, I always felt like I should be somewhere else, doing something else, being someone else. It took me 78 years to understand what that feeling was, and when I finally figured it out, I sat in my kitchen and cried for an hour. Not because I was sad, because I'd wasted so much time. My name is Walter, and I want to tell you something that might save you decades of confusion. When I was young, maybe 22 or 23, I had this image in my head of what a successful life looked like. You know the picture. Nice house, nice car, respected job, beautiful family. Everyone admires you. Everyone thinks you've made it. I got that image from my father, I think. Or maybe television. Or just the general noise of the world telling you what to want. So I chased it. I chased it hard. I went to college, got a degree in accounting. Not because I loved numbers, but because it was practical, safe. My father told me artists starve and dreamers fail, so I buried whatever dreams I had and did what made sense. Got a job at a firm right out of school. Married my college sweetheart, Patricia, in 1966. We bought a little house, had 2 kids. Everything was going according to plan. But here's the thing nobody tells you. You can do everything right and still feel wrong. I remember this one night I was maybe 35, sitting in my living room after the kids went to bed. Patricia was reading in the corner. The house was quiet. I should have felt content. I had everything I'd worked for. But instead I felt this overwhelming sense of, I don't even know what to call it. Emptiness, disappointment, like I'd arrived at a destination only to realize it wasn't where I wanted to go. I didn't say anything. I just went to bed. And the next morning, I got up and went to work like nothing happened. That's what you did back then. You didn't talk about feelings. You didn't question things. You just kept going. So I kept going. For 40 more years. The emptiness never went away. I just got better at ignoring it. I threw myself into work, got promoted, made more money, bought a bigger house, took the family on vacations. From the outside, my life looked perfect. But inside, I was running on empty, just going through the motions, waiting for something to change. You know what I was waiting for? I was waiting to feel like myself. But I didn't even know who that was. 3 years ago, Patricia passed away. 54 years of marriage, and then she was gone. Heart failure. One day she was here, the next she wasn't. And after the funeral, after all the condolences and the casseroles and the well-meaning visitors, I was alone. Really alone. For the first time in my entire life. And that's when everything hit me. See, when Patricia was alive, I could distract myself. There was always something to do, someone to take care of, some routine to follow. But alone in that quiet house, with nothing but my thoughts, I had to face something I'd been avoiding for 60 years. I had never really lived my own life. I lived my father's expectations. I lived society's definition of success. I lived for other people's approval. But I never stopped to ask myself what I actually wanted. What would make me feel alive? What would fill that hollow space in my chest? And you know what I realized? I didn't even know. I'd spent so long being who everyone else wanted me to be that I'd lost touch with who I actually was. Let me tell you about something that happened when I was 19, before college, before Patricia, before I became the person everyone expected me to be. I used to paint. Nothing serious, just watercolors. Landscapes mostly. I'd go to the park on Saturday mornings and set up my little easel and paint whatever I saw. Trees, birds, the way sunlight hit the water. I wasn't very good, but I loved it. For those few hours I felt completely present, completely myself, like the world made sense. My father found out. He didn't yell or anything. He just looked at me with this disappointed expression and said, "Walter, painting is fine as a hobby, but you need to focus on your future. You need to be practical." So I put down the brushes, packed away the easel, told myself I'd get back to it someday when I had more time, when I was more established, when life settled down. Someday never came. I didn't paint for 62 years. 62 years. And here's what kills me. I barely noticed. I was so busy chasing things that didn't matter that I forgot about the one thing that made me feel alive. About 6 months after Patricia died, I was cleaning out the garage. Found my old paints in a box in the corner. The tubes were dried out, useless. But I stood there holding them, and something broke open inside me. I went to the art supply store that afternoon. Bought new paints, new brushes, a cheap easel. I set up in my backyard and I painted. For the first time in over 6 decades, I painted. It was terrible. I'd lost whatever skill I had. My hands shook. The colors didn't look right. But you know what? I didn't care. Because for those 2 hours, the emptiness was gone. For the first time in as long as I could remember, I felt like myself. That was the moment I finally understood what had been missing all those years. I'd been living someone else's life, following someone else's map, chasing someone else's definition of success, and all the money and promotions and achievements in the world couldn't fill the hole that left. Because the hole wasn't about having enough. It was about being disconnected from myself. Here's what I wish someone had told me when I was young. Success isn't about achieving things. It's about living in alignment with who you actually are. And if you don't know who you are, if you've never taken the time to figure that out, you'll spend your whole life feeling empty no matter how much you accomplish. I think a lot of people feel what I felt. That vague sense that something's off. That nagging feeling that there should be more. That quiet desperation that comes from living a life that looks right but feels wrong. And most people do what I did. They ignore it. They stay busy. They tell themselves they'll figure it out later, when they have more time, when things calm down, when they retire. But later never comes. And one day you wake up, and you're 85 years old, and you realize you waited your whole life for something that was never going to arrive. The thing you're waiting for? It's not coming. Because the thing you're looking for isn't out there. It's inside you. And you have to go find it. After I started painting again, I started asking myself other questions. What else did I give up? What else did I bury because it wasn't practical or sensible or expected? Turns out, a lot. I always wanted to learn to play piano. Never did. I wanted to travel to Italy and see the art. Never went. I wanted to write down my father's stories before he died. Never made time. I wanted to tell my kids I was proud of them more often. Always assumed they knew. So many things I pushed aside. So many pieces of myself I abandoned because I was too busy being who I thought I should be. I'm trying to reclaim some of it now. I take piano lessons every Wednesday. My teacher is 23 years old and probably thinks I'm crazy. I don't care. I'm terrible at it, but I love it. I'm planning a trip to Florence next spring if my health holds up. I've started writing letters to my kids and grandkids, telling them things I should have said years ago. It's late. I know that. I can't get back the 60 years I lost. But I can make the most of whatever time I have left. And more importantly, I can tell you this so maybe you don't make the same mistake. That empty feeling you have, The one you can't quite name? The one you try to fill with work or achievements or buying things or staying busy? It's not going to go away until you face it, until you stop and ask yourself who you really are underneath all the roles and expectations and should-bes. What did you love as a child before anyone told you it wasn't practical? What makes you lose track of time? What would you do if you didn't care what anyone thought? These questions matter. They're not silly or self-indulgent. They're the most important questions you'll ever ask yourself, because the answers will lead you back to yourself. And that's the only place where the emptiness can actually be filled. I spent my whole career helping people with their finances. Retirement planning, tax strategies, investment portfolios, and I was good at it. People trusted me with their life savings. But here's the irony. I helped people prepare for a future I wasn't even sure I wanted to reach. I had clients who retired with millions of dollars and nothing to do. They'd spent their whole lives working toward this moment, and when it arrived, they were lost. Empty. Just like me. Because having money doesn't give you purpose. Having security doesn't give you meaning. You have to figure that out for yourself. And if you wait until retirement to do it, you might find you've waited too long. My grandson came to visit last month. He's 26, smart kid, works at some tech company, makes good money. But he had that look, that same hollow expression I used to see in the mirror. He told me he feels like he's just going through the motions, like he's living someone else's life. I told him about the painting, about the 62 years I lost, about the emptiness that ate away at me for decades. And I said something to him that I wish someone had said to me. I said, "Don't wait. Don't tell yourself you'll figure it out later. Don't sacrifice who you are for who you think you should be, because later comes faster than you think. And by then, you might have forgotten who you were in the first place." He got quiet. I could tell it landed. Whether he'll actually do something about it, I don't know. That's up to him. All I can do is share what I've learned and hope it helps. So here's what I want to leave you with. The emptiness is a signal. It's trying to tell you something. It's telling you that somewhere along the way, you lost yourself. You started living according to someone else's rules. You abandoned the parts of yourself that didn't fit the plan. And the only way to fill that emptiness is to go back and find those pieces. To reconnect with who you actually are. To give yourself permission to want what you want, not what you're supposed to want. It's not easy. It requires honesty. It requires courage. It might mean making changes that scare you or disappointing people who expect you to stay the same. But I promise you, it's worth it. Because the alternative is spending your whole life feeling like something's missing and never understanding why. I'm 85. I paint every morning now. Badly, but joyfully. I play terrible piano every Wednesday. I'm planning a trip I should have taken 40 years ago. And for the first time in my life, the emptiness is gone. Not because I achieved anything new, because I finally stopped running from myself. You don't have to wait until you're 85 to figure this out. You can start today, right now. Ask yourself the questions you've been avoiding. Listen to the signals you've been ignoring. Give yourself permission to be who you actually are. That's all I've got. I hope it means something to you. If it does, share this with someone else who needs to hear it. Leave a comment and tell me what you've been putting off. What part of yourself have you abandoned? And subscribe if you want more conversations like this. I've got a few more years left, and I'd like to spend them saying things that matter. The emptiness doesn't have to be permanent, but you have to be willing to face it. Don't wait like I did. Please, don't wait.